Hi guys. So I thought today we might talk about the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette versus the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. Rebecca Claiborne Wright left a comment in yesterday's video saying that she didn't have either one and she wondered which one I liked better. And I left a response, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, I feel like there is an answer to that question, and we're going to discuss both palettes today and compare them, and I'm going to talk about what I like or don't like about each palette, and then let you know at the end, if I could only buy one, which one would I buy? And yeah, I thought that would be something a little different because there are so many videos up already on either reviews or tutorial for each palette, but I thought maybe we could just compare the two, and that would be something a little different that maybe you haven't seen before. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that I used both these palettes to do my look today, so let's start there. I kept going back and forth with each palette, and I have a ton of colors on my eyes, so let me show you what I did. In the Sweet Peach palette, I started off by doing my brow bone and inner corner highlight with this shade right here. This is called White Peach, and it is an extremely light, warm, matte beige. And so that's what I have as my brow bone highlight and inner corner highlight. Then the next thing I did was I went into the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette and I used this shade right here. This is called Amaretto, and it is a beautiful red toned brown, and it is maybe my favorite shade in that palette. No, that's not true. There's a lot of good shades in that palette. It's one of my favorite shades in the Chocolate Bar palette. I use that as a transition. So you can see the red poking up in the upper crease area there. You can see that hint of red. Then what I did was I went back to the Sweet Peach palette and I used this shade right here called Luscious. This is a light warm brown, and I put that on the inner half of my lids. Then what I did was I used Bless Her Heart, which is a green shade, and I put that on the outer half of my lids. I started off doing it kind of heavy on the outer half, and then I sort of faded it in so that it would be a little bit lighter towards the middle part of my lid, and sort of mixed it a little bit with the Luscious so that I have like a gradation of color. Then what I did was I took Cobbler, which is this shade right here. It's a warm brown, and I put that just in the regular crease area underneath the other shade that I showed you, like the reddish brown from the other palette. So Cobbler is just in my regular crease area. Then what I did was I took this shade right here, which is called Hot Chocolate, and I put that in the outer V area. Then I went back to the Sweet Peach palette. I used so many shades. I thought, oh boy, this might be too many colors. Went back to the Sweet Peach palette, and here's where I feel like I loved the look until I did this, but I really wanted to try this and see what would happen. This is tempting. This is a super dark, warm brown shade, and it's got some gold sparkles in it. I dragged that color down along my lower lash line, and it kind of wrecked the look for me in my mind. I mean, it's okay, but it's so dark, and you know, I smudged it out, and I used a very small brush, and I don't know. I just liked it a lot better before I did that, and I wish I had done something on the lower lash line that maybe was not so dark and not so sparkly. But that's what I did anyway, because I want to use the shade, because I hadn't used that one yet. And then I took a brown, just a regular brown eyeliner, and I lined my waterline and tight line. And I just also want to mention that I used MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot as a base for all these eyeshadows, because what you use as a base under eyeshadows has a huge impact on how the eyeshadows themselves will perform. I don't feel like you can expect any eyeshadow to go on nicely without something underneath it, and what you use as a base makes a big difference. And I feel like MAC paint pots always perform well. So if I'm going to do something warm, I use soft ochre. If I'm going to do something cool or neutral, I use Painterly, because that's really close to my skin tone. But when I'm going all out warm, I used soft ochre. And then on my cheeks for a blush, I've got Milani Luminoso. I figured a peach blush would tie in nicely with these colors. And on my lips, if you have the Sweet Peach palette, I think you kind of need this. This is ColourPop Ultra Satin lipstick, liquid lipstick in Echo Park. And you know, when I first purchased this, I didn't really know how much use I would get out of it. And then all of a sudden, this peach trend just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I'm really glad I picked this up, because anytime I'm going to do either peach, brown, gold, anything like that, this lip color seems to coordinate really well with it. So I'm glad I got that. Now, as far as the palettes goes, let's talk a little bit about the other colors in the palettes. One thing that you will notice that they changed from one palette to the next, the chocolate bar comes with this. So it's one of those plastic overlays, and if you put it over the shadows, it will tell you what the names are. This is kind of a pain in the butt. One of the things that they improved upon is when you open the Sweet Peach palette, the names are just printed on top. That is so much easier from the perspective of someone that makes videos, or if you're just trying to show someone or describe to somebody what you used. So I really like that they did that. And as far as the actual eyeshadows themselves go, the Chocolate Bar palette is pretty awesome, and I feel like of all the Too Faced palettes that I own, which I only own 4, so I don't own as many as a lot of other people do, because there have been a ton. But as the 4 that I have goes, this is my favorite one. And I feel like they did an amazing job with this palette. I feel like a lot of people really like neutrals, and there are a ton of them in here. The one shadow in this palette that does not perform that well, I think, is this sparkly purple right here. And it is so gorgeous. And when you swatch it with your finger, when I swatched that for the first time, I said, oh my God, that is stunning. Doesn't necessarily go with this color scheme, which is probably why they put that matte pink shade right next to it, because those two together would make a really pretty eye. However, things don't always perform the way they swatch. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. If you are at a store like Sephora that has testers and you swatch something and you look at it and go, ooh, that is beautiful, I really want that. You have to take into consideration that not everything is going to perform on skin the way it does swatched, even though I'm swatching it on skin. Applying this with a brush on your eyes is a whole different story. This purple eyeshadow, what is it called? See, now I gotta go to the stupid plastic overlay. Candied Violet. It doesn't apply or blend nicely, and I think it has something to do with all that shimmer glitter that is in there. And the reason why I say that, I will explain in a minute when I get to the other palette why I'm saying that. But aside from Candied Violet, this is a pretty awesome palette, and if you don't have it, I absolutely would recommend it. Okay, so let me wipe that off and we will move on here. So I like all the shadows basically in that palette except for Candied Violet. I think they're all great, and no problems with any of them except for that one. Now with the Sweet Peach palette, I've been playing around with this since I bought it. I've had it for about a week, I guess now, and I've used a lot of the colors in here, and I have some issues with a few of them. So just based on that alone, if I was going to buy one or the other, I would definitely buy the Chocolate Bar palette because I've had that and have been using it for a long time, and I don't have any issues with it except for that one shadow, like I said. However, with this, I'm finding I have issues with several of the colors in here, and that is not a good thing. Considering, you know, it's the same price as the other one. So let me just tell you what has been my experience with some of these. Okay, let's start with Nectar. Now, Nectar is a yellow, okay? But when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that, you know, that could be interesting because usually when you're going to do some kind of a highlight shade or an inner corner shade, your choices are normally white, beige, or gold. And I thought yellow is something different that we don't normally see. And I used that in a look one day, and oh my God, it looked so bad. Now, the reason why it looks so bad is not necessarily because of the shadow itself, it's just that it doesn't go with my skin tone. A yellow highlight or inner corner does not work for me. So that is not the fault of the palette so much as it is just the fault of who and what I am. However, if you have warm toned skin, this might be a really nice, versatile option for you that might look really pretty if you have warm toned skin. So I can't fault the palette for that, but that shadow just looks like crap on me. And then this shadow right here, Peaches and Cream, is a very, very light, warm tone peach, and it's chalky and crumbly, and when you try to use it, it's kind of a big mess. So I don't like either one of these shades right here. And then let's move on to the most obvious one. When you look at this palette, what jumps out at you? For me, it was this shade right here. It's called Candied Peach. Now, interestingly enough, the shade that I don't like in the Chocolate Bar palette is called Candied Violet. This is called Candied Peach. So what do you think happened when I tried to use this? The same thing that happened with Candied Violet. The formula on it, it doesn't apply well, it doesn't blend well, it doesn't look on your skin like what it looks like when you swatch it. Let me swatch it for you. This is Candied Peach. So it's like a beautiful coral with sparkles in it. But when you actually try to use it with brushes on your eye skin, it just doesn't hold up. The glitter goes everywhere, even if you use a base. I don't like it. I don't like the way it performed. Can you hear that airplane? Sorry about that. I do like these two shades here. This shade and this shade are fantastic, warm brown, frosty type finish shades. Cobbler and Caramelized. What's weird about those is they're almost exactly the same color. And I feel like that was kind of redundant to put this and this in the palette. Caramelized has a little bit more of a golden hue to it, but they are so similar. Okay, Cobbler is going to be on my index finger, and Caramelized is going to be on my middle finger. But they're so close. So this one is caramelized, it's a little more golden. This one is a little less golden and is just a tiny bit lighter than caramelized. So I feel like that was a bit redundant. Both great shades. I've used them both and love them. But why would you put two of almost exactly the same thing in the palette? I don't know. If you wanted to go golden, then you should have just put a gold. But that's just my opinion. The other shades all work really nicely. The only ones that I haven't used yet is I haven't used that purple or that plum yet. And I don't think I've used this peach pit yet either, just because it's such an odd shade. I mean, why would you call that peach pit? That doesn't look peach at all to me. But I really like the way White Peach performed for a highlight. I really liked the way Luscious performed. I really liked the way Bless Her Heart performed. So that's the highlight I used, the inner lid, outer lid. Tempting, I don't know. That's kind of a hard color to work with. It's like a blackish brown. So, I don't know. That's a tough one because it's got sparkle in it. Maybe if they hadn't put sparkle in it, it would have been easier to work with. I like this one. This is just a nice brown right here. Charmed, I'm sure. It's like a matte satiny type shade. So then I said that I didn't like Nectar because it was yellow. I like Cobbler. Didn't like Candied Peach. Bellini is beautiful. That's a really nice peach shade. So I haven't used this or this. Didn't like that. Dry and Crumbly. Georgia is better. Georgia is a pretty light peach, more vibrant shade than this. It's like a cooler peach, if there is such a thing, because peach isn't really a cool color. But this performed better, so I'm okay with that one. Caramelized was great. Puree, that performed well. Summer Yum performed well. These are just your basic warm matte browns, and then I didn't use that sparkly purple. So that's how I feel about Sweet Peach. So honestly, if you can afford both, I would still get both, even though I have some issues with some of the ones in Sweet Peach because it is really fun. The two palettes seem to work well together. If you have both palettes, then you probably feel the same way. But if I was only going to buy one, I would go with the Chocolate Bar palette because it's got so many great neutrals in it. If you want to pull in something colorful, you could just dip into anything that's already in your collection, like maybe a single eyeshadow to pull in with that. But this is pretty awesome, and I like that they made these two highlight type shades a little bit larger because it's something you're going to reach for again and again. Whereas they didn't do that with the other palette to make room for more shades. So that's what I think. So to answer your question, Rebecca, I would go with the Chocolate Bar, but the Sweet Peach is nice too. That is it for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye.